Welcome to this explainer. Look, I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're going to unpack something that literally dictates the entire trajectory of your life. We are talking about the hidden operating system running in the background of your brain every single second of every single day. If you've ever felt stuck or, like you're fighting this invisible force when you're trying to reach your goals, this explainer is going to connect a lot of dots for you. So let's jump right in. What if I told you that almost nothing you do today is actually a conscious choice? I know, it sounds pretty aggressive, right? We all love to believe that we're in total control of our daily actions, our habits, the path to success, the whole shebang. But the science? Well, it paints a vastly different picture. What if I told you that 95% of your decisions aren't made by you at all? They're actually made by a hidden system, your subconscious mind. From what you decide to eat, to how you react to an annoying email, right down to the thoughts you have about your own potential, 95% of it is just running on autopilot. It's generated by a deeply ingrained code. And this brings us to a massive realization. The top 0.01%, those elite performers who just seem to effortlessly achieve massive success, they don't fight this statistic. They don't rely on sheer conscious willpower because, let's face it, willpower eventually runs out. Instead, they strategically program that 95%. They learn how to hack their underlying cognitive system so that success literally becomes their autopilot. All right, part 1. The hidden operating system. To understand exactly how the 0.01% program their reality, we first need to understand the hardware. Your brain is quite literally an operating system, and we've got to look at the hidden code driving it. Neuroscience calls this predictive processing. You see, your subconscious mind isn't just some storage unit for old beliefs. It's a prediction machine. Your brain is constantly predicting your future based on your past, just to minimize surprise and prediction error. So if you grew up with a mental model thinking, I'm not good enough, your brain doesn't stop to objectively question it. It actively tries to prove it, again and again. Not because it's true, but because your brain's main job is to stay consistent. It prioritizes consistency over actually being correct. And this filtering? It happens physically in your brain through something called the reticular activating system, or RAS. Picture it acting like a fence or a bouncer. The RAS sits near your brainstem and acts as the ultimate gatekeeper between your conscious and subconscious mind. It literally filters out the millions of bits of data in your environment, only letting through the stuff your subconscious already expects to see or deems important. So if your subconscious predicts failure, your RAS will literally filter out opportunities and only show you obstacles, making sure your external reality matches your internal code. Which brings us to part 2, why positive thinking fails. So if the brain is just a prediction machine filtering our reality, why can't we just think happy thoughts to fix it, right? Well, here is exactly what most people get wrong. They try to just think positive. But your subconscious doesn't respond to mere words. It responds to emotion, repetition, and identity. That's exactly why standing in the mirror saying, I am rich once a day falls completely flat. It cannot override years of deep emotional conditioning. Your conscious mind is using words, sure, but your subconscious is entirely rejecting them because they lack the emotional arousal and the identity-level repetition needed to change the predictive model. In fact, forcing positive affirmations can actually backfire on you because of something called cognitive dissonance. This is that mental discomfort you feel when your conscious words clash with your deeply embedded subconscious predictions. When you hold conflicting thoughts, like forcing yourself to say, I am a success, while internally believing I am a failure, your brain experiences actual psychological stress. And to resolve that discomfort and minimize error, your brain just rejects the new forced positive thought. It acts as a biological defense mechanism, fighting to protect the old, familiar code. Okay, part 3, the 0.01% method. So if words and willpower don't work, what the heck does? Well, let's look at how top performers strategically bypass these biological defenses. The elite use 3 hidden principles to train their subconscious, slowly, consistently, and strategically. They are emotional encoding, identity override, and environment programming. Let's break these down. The absolute crucial point of Principle 1 is emotional encoding. Neuroscience research highlights that the amygdala is essential for processing emotional and episodic memories.
When you experience high emotional arousal, your amygdala basically takes a highlighter pen to that experience and tags it as absolutely vital for survival. This is why emotional arousal makes memories last longer and become vastly more impactful. It's why trauma rewires people instantly, but casually stating your goals doesn't. So instead of just repeating your goals, you must intensely feel them as real. When you visualize success with intense emotion, truly feeling the pride and relief, your amygdala encodes it deeply into your long-term memory.
Building on that, we have identity override and environment inputs. Look, behavior doesn't change your identity. Identity changes your behavior. Top performers don't say, I want to be successful. They say, I am the kind of person who executes daily. And here's the secret. This is exactly why accumulating small daily wins is vastly more effective than setting huge, overwhelming goals. Small wins provide consistent, undeniable proof to your subconscious that your new identity is real, and that slowly rewrites your internal code. Plus, your environment, your phone, your room, the people you hang out with, they all serve as constant programming inputs for your reticular activating system. If your environment reflects discipline, your subconscious simply adapts to discipline. But to really get these principles to stick, we have to bypass the analytical mind altogether. As Dr. Joe Dispenza points out, when our brain is in the fast, waking beta state, we're using the analytical neocortex. You cannot rewrite the operating system from there. We must literally slow our brainwaves down to the relaxed alpha or deeply meditative theta states. That is the only way to open the door to the autonomic nervous system and reprogram it. Moving on to part 4, hacking imagination and reality. If we can get into that relaxed brainwave state, we can utilize a groundbreaking discovery from a recent UCL neuroscience study that proves we can literally trick the brain's hardware. It all comes down to the fusiform gyrus. This is a region on the underside of the brain's temporal lobe. Researchers discovered that this specific area acts as the brain's ultimate reality checker. Think of it as a border patrol that determines whether what you're experiencing is happening out there in the physical world or if it's just being generated internally by your imagination. The study showed that the brain uses the strength of sensory signals to distinguish reality from imagination. But here's the massive takeaway. They discovered that when a person's mental imagery is incredibly vivid and tied to strong emotion, the activation in the fusiform gyrus becomes so incredibly strong that the brain can no longer tell the difference. Strong mental imagery can quite literally trick your brain into believing that what you are imagining is actual external reality. Crazy, right? All right, part 5, your subconscious visualization challenge. So how do we actually apply all this heavy neuroscience? This is where we turn knowledge into power. I have a highly practical challenge for you to complete tonight to start resetting those subconscious habits. Here are your concrete tips. Step 1, wait until you are literally drifting off to sleep tonight. This naturally slows your brainwaves out of beta and into that highly suggestible alpha and theta state, totally bypassing your analytical defenses. Step 2, while in this state, visualize your future life and your goals for just 2 minutes. Keep it focused. And step 3, this is the most important one. Feel the emotion. Don't just watch it like a movie. Feel the joy, the relief, the accomplishment. By combining the theta state with vivid emotional visualization, you are forcing your amygdala to encode it as an impactful memory, and you're triggering your fusiform gyrus to log it as a real external experience. Because ultimately, the life you repeat internally becomes the life you live externally. Your subconscious is a survival machine built over millions of years, and it just wants to keep you consistent with what it knows. So remember this, you don't get what you want, you get what your subconscious believes you deserve. So what's it going to be? Are you going to let your old programming dictate your future, or are you going to start writing the code yourself? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I can't wait to see you next time.